In this video tutorial, I am going to discuss why septic shock leads to metabolic acidosis. This is one of the most important, most critical complications in intensive care units, and understanding the mechanism can literally save lives. Let's try to understand this concept. First, let's understand what happens in septic shock. Septic shock occurs when a severe infection triggers a massive inflammatory response throughout the body. This releases inflammatory mediators like cytokines, tumor necrosis factor, and interleukins into the bloodstream. These inflammatory mediators causes widespread vasodilation, meaning blood vessels relaxes and widen dramatically. This leads to dangerously low blood pressure, or you can say severe hypotension. And due to this, there is decreased oxygen delivery to cells. Now, this is a very big problem. When cells cannot receive adequate oxygen, they face crisis. Normally, when oxygen is present, glucose is completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water to produce ATP. But when oxygen is not present, as in septic shock, glucose is only partially broken down to lactic acid through a process known as anaerobic glycolysis. And here is where metabolic acidosis begins. Now, the exact mechanism by which anaerobic glycolysis produces lactic acid is explained in full detail in my one of the previous videos. If you want to see that video, link is given in the description as well as in the I button. Now let's continue the discussion. As I already mentioned, anaerobic metabolism produces lactic acid as a byproduct. As lactic acid accumulates in the bloodstream, it increases hydrogen ion concentration, that is decrease in the blood pH. So as this acidosis is primarily because of lactic acid, we call it as a lactic acidosis. And one more thing, bicarbonate ions are used up to buffer this increased hydrogen ions. So bicarbonate level decreases. A low blood pH in combination with a low serum bicarbonate level is a diagnostic of metabolic acidosis. So here, lactic acidosis is the primary cause of metabolic acidosis in septic shock. And as lactic acid is unmeasured anion in blood, the anion gap is typically increased. But wait, lactic acidosis isn't the only mechanism. There are two more mechanisms of metabolic acidosis in septic shock. So let's give lactic acidosis number 1. So second, septic shock often causes acute kidney injury. This occurs because of decreased oxygen delivery to the cells of kidney. The kidneys normally excrete hydrogen ions and reabsorbs bicarbonate to maintain blood pH. But when kidneys fail, this excretion of hydrogen ion does not occur, leading to H plus ion accumulation, and it leads to decrease in the blood pH. And similarly, failing to reabsorb bicarbonate ion leads to decrease in bicarbonate level in the serum. This further leads to metabolic acidosis. Third reason of metabolic acidosis in septicemia is the cellular damage. The severe inflammation leads to cellular damage, which releases intracellular content into the bloodstream, and this includes phosphates and sulfates. These phosphates and sulfates are metabolized into phosphoric acid and sulfuric acid, further contributing to the acidotic environment. Now comes a dangerous part. When blood pH drops, it impairs cardiac contractility, meaning the heart cannot pump. Right? So there is further decrease in blood pressure. And we know what happens when blood pressure drops. It leads to metabolic acidosis. So metabolic acidosis creates this vicious cycle that makes septic shock even worse. So let's summarize everything. Septic shock leads to metabolic acidosis through three main reasons. First, circulatory dysfunction forces cells into anaerobic metabolism, producing lactic acid. Second, kidney injury prevents acid excretion and bicarbonate retention. And third, cellular damage releases acid forming substances. Together, this creates a severe metabolic acidosis that worsens shock and increases mortality. So this completes our discussion for this video. I hope that all the concepts are clear. If you still have any query or confusion, please write it down in the comment section below. Thank you.